Lindsay was supposed to start 4th grade in a month when she went missing. There was no chaotic moment signifying the disturbance that was about to ripple through my life, and nothing was blatantly out of the ordinary. She just wasn't in her room one morning. No sign of anyone entering or leaving. Just poof! My 10-year-old daughter was gone. I called the police. Before they even arrived, I was sprinting through the woods, calling her name and promising her the world if she would just come back to me. My calls went unanswered for hours. Eventually, 2 police officers forced me back home for questioning. A month later, everyone but me had given up on the search. I found myself venturing further into the unmarked territory of the woods than I ever thought possible. I'd made peace with the fact that my daughter was dead, and that once I found her body and held a proper funeral, I was going to attempt to move on with my life. So when I saw the shack in the middle of the woods, I approached it with a savage curiosity that boiled my insides and turned my brain to mush. Could Lindsay really be in there? As I approached the structure, I noticed a trail of clothes leading towards the entrance. Cut up pieces of a Dora the Explorer dress that contained pictures of boots dancing happily. At the end of the trail, just outside the door, was an eyeball. It stared up at me, deathly and unseeing. My baby's eye. Whatever monster that took her had cut it out. Seeing actual hard evidence of her death tore me apart in a way I never thought possible. Falling to the ground, I felt my body go numb. Why? I whispered, sobs catching in my throat. Why did God abandon me? I realized that the rest of her was more than likely inside. Opening the door, I was intent on retrieving her body and giving my girl a proper funeral. As it crept open, I heard barely audible whimpers coming from the far corner of the room. Daddy? I gazed up at my baby and immediately had to fight back the bile building in my throat. Where her left eye should have been was a caved-in hole caked with blood. Inside, worms were milling about in a frenzy. She was bald on the left side of her head, craters filling the space where her hair used to be. Her right ear hung lifelessly from her face. Dark bruises covered her body so completely that it looked like she had been smothered in charcoal. Where the bruises weren't, her naked body was filled with various gashes, and cuts so deep they protruded from both sides. Miraculously enough, though, she was alive. Don't worry, baby, I said, crying and gasping for air. I'm here to rescue you. Before I could even realize what was happening, she sprung up from the ground and raced past me. Reaching the door, she turned towards me.
But Daddy...
She was giggling.
Who's going to save you?
Staring into my eyes, she slammed the door shut. I stepped backwards, hiding in the shadows.
Baby?
She didn't respond. Instead, we stood staring at each other. Her smiling, me cowering in fear, for what felt like hours, but was surely only a few moments. Paternal instinct took over me. I ran forward and scooped Lindsay up in my arms, suddenly convinced that she was in shock and in danger of dying if I didn't do something. I burst outside, but as I did so, she bit me on my shoulder, narrowly missing my neck. Pain overrunning my system, I dropped her, my hands instinctively finding my wound as I crumpled to the ground. It felt like I had been stabbed, and was being stabbed over and over as I sat on my knees. She stood over me, seemingly growing as I took in her ominous presence.
No one can save you.
She said in a sing-song voice.
Because you're too weak to fight back.
I thrust my body away from her, standing up and sprinting through the trees.
That isn't my daughter.
I thought. I glanced backwards and came to a stop. She wasn't chasing me. Did I just leave my daughter behind? I couldn't live the rest of my life knowing that there was a possibility I could have saved her. Turning around, I found her stumbling through the clearing towards me.
Daddy?
She whispered.
Why did you leave me? I can't see out of my eye, Daddy.
As I grabbed her, holding her tight, a voice forced itself through her mouth. The deep and raspy voice of a demon.
You will spend eternity in hell.
She jumped from the ground and attempted to bite my neck once more. I jumped to the left, dodging her attack. This time, I knew the truth. I had to kill it. I couldn't let some demonic entity control my daughter's body. I pulled out the knife that was sheathed in my boot and lunged forward, stabbing her in the chest. Not content, I closed my eyes and stabbed again, and again, and again, and again. When I opened my eyes, a pool of blood covered the ground around us. My tears making dripping sounds as they rippled through the gore, creating a strange concoction of bodily fluids. I stepped backwards, not believing what I'd just done. Lindsay frowned.
Daddy,
Why are you hurting me? She can't die.
Lindsay noticed the realization sinking in, and her face flipped into a morbid smile as she stepped towards me once more. Knowing nothing else would stop her, I did the unthinkable. I thrust the knife into her throat to keep it still while I tackled her to the ground. When I was on top of her, I yanked it free, causing a waterfall of blood to cascade down our bodies. Then, I decapitated my daughter. It wasn't easy. Not like the movies where a quick cut finishes the job. Rather, I had to slowly saw at her throat until her head disconnected from the rest of her body. The top of her neck stayed attached to her head, while the bottom remained confined to her chest. Bits and pieces of skin and baby fat joined the river of blood and tears under my feet. When I was finished, I jumped backward, attempting to protect myself from what I'd done. Lindsay's lips moved as her body clawed towards her.
You can't kill your princess, Daddy.
I buried her body right then and there, under a dozen feet of dirt. Then I took her head and buried it hundreds of yards away. She giggled while I did so, but as the last shovelful of dirt enveloped her body, she said something that will haunt me for the rest of my life.
I'll be back, Daddy. And so will my friends.
I hope you guys enjoyed the story as much as I did reading it to you. I want to apologize for not uploading in the past couple of days. I've been working on other projects, and if you want to check out that project, I'd appreciate if you would in the description below. If you're a nerd or an idiot of any sort and you're looking for a laugh or a palate cleanser, this will be the video for you. And if you haven't already and you like the content on this channel, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to the growth of it. Along with my subscribers, I also want to thank Connor Rice for allowing me to narrate this story. And if you guys would, I would appreciate if you check out the original story in the description box below. I'll leave a link for it there. Alright guys, let's reach 1,000 subscribers before Halloween. Good night, and good luck. You'll need it.